Hi team, good morning. Hope you are doing well. If you're watching this closures part 3 means hopefully you understood what we have discussed in part 1 and part 2 at the same time. You should have a knowledge on what is scope and what is lexical scope and what is a scope chain. So without understanding those three concepts, we can't understand this thing properly. Okay, hopefully you guys understood. If not, please go and watch those videos again and do practice. Then it is going to be very easy. So okay, in yesterday's session, okay, we understand like if you have a grandfather function inside, you have a variable assets. Okay, otherwise it's better to rewrite. That's always be good for us. And today we are going to learn very important things, okay, in closures, because we are going to use closures in various places, in project level, also in advanced JavaScript libraries or frameworks. So if you want to understand how those are working, so we should understand a few more fundamentals related to the closures. Okay, I hope you will enjoy this if you do practice. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Okay, fine. So if you see, of course, I'm creating a function that is called grandfather, and grandfather have just holding some variable that is called assets. So maybe 100 acres of land. Okay, that's what we are discussing from yesterday. And we have another function that is called a father. Okay, father is maintaining some bank balance, or you can take different name. That is your choice. I'm just putting like 50 crores of money. Okay, and here what we are trying to access console.log. Okay, the father is saying, okay, my bank balance. Okay, even I think you guys already understood. That's why I no need to give full description. So here he is just trying to access the bank balance, because bank balance is is in the his father's component local scope. That's why he no need to worry about that. And yes, with the help of lexical scope, we can access this function can access the variables and methods which is there in his parent function. Okay, because this who is the parent for this father function? That's a grandfather. Who is the parent for grandfather function? That is a global execution context. Okay, and this is simple. And now whenever you try to invoke the function, then only it will create a separate execution context for this, and it will start executing this code, and it will give our results for us. In the same way, we have a grandfather, so we should invoke this function. So whenever you invoke this function, it will create the execution context, and it will allocate the memory for assets and further in the memory allocation phase. Then it will start executing. At the time it will provide 100 acres to assets, and it will invoke this function. At the time it will create another execution context on top of grandfather. Okay, you should able to, because if I explain like this, if you are able to visualize, that means if you have done a practice, you can visualize. Otherwise, I need to draw the diagram one more time. So okay, no problem. I will draw it because it's in a initial stage, so that it's better to draw again. So this is the call stack. This is the call stack, and yesterday we understand that. Okay, first, whenever we, whenever it is creating the global execution context, it will allocate separate memory for that, separate scope for that. So we need to give a different color. Hopefully I have taken same color yesterday also. And now, okay, this is what are the things we can hold here. Right now we don't have any variables outside inside the global execution context. Only thing is the function. So whenever you invoke the function called father, okay, it will allocate again another memory, right? So this is a local scope of the father. This is a local scope of the father. So we can give some different blue or green. So we can go for green. I think yesterday we have given yellow. I didn't remember. So just imagine this is this is for the father's local scope. Okay, and here the beauty of JavaScript is you can access the information from their parent. So because who is the parent for this grandfather? That is the god. So he can access information from his local memory and the lexical scope, okay, scope chain, till it reaches global execution context. He can access it. That is fine. That's we already understand. So this is global execution context. Whenever you are doing practice, it's always better to write the namings also. This is grandfather, okay, and whenever you invoke the father function, what it will do, it will it will create another execution context, okay, another execution context, and it will hold its local memory, okay. I'm just putting this as yellow color, this as yellow color, okay. And along with this, he can access from information from his lexical environment. Okay, yesterday clearly we understand that this global execution, the scope, global scope is always be available for you wherever you go. Okay, always you will this will be available. And for this one, because of course definitely he can access information from his immediate parent, and then he can access information from this global execution context. But if you're not using the variables which you have defined in your immediate parent like grandfather function, it is not going to form a closure, right? That's what we need to understand. So here we if you don't use the information from the grandfather, it is not going to form a closure because not required, because this bank balance is enough for this father. He's not depending on these assets of grandfather at the time. It is not going to form a closure. But whenever you are trying to access it, it will form a closure, right? So I will show you that, and then we are going to enter into the actual concept of today. So right now I'm not using that so that you can see that thing clearly in the browser. Okay, always every day whenever you are doing practice, please watch that in a mm, debugging. Okay, just I will try to switch things so that it's easy to recognize. Okay, if you see, this is the call stack. Okay, this is the call stack, and now if you start debugging, okay, I'm just putting a debugger point here. Okay, just refresh. Observe carefully here, observe carefully here, observe carefully here. Whenever you are invoking grandfather, okay, okay, right now this is a global execution context. We don't have any execution context on top of it. Now when I execute it, okay, we got the execution context on top of global execution context like this. Okay, this is what we got now. And along with that, definitely you can access your local information. Okay, local memory and the global scope. Global scope is always be available for anyone in the program, any function. So we don't have any problem. And if you just start debugging, whenever you invoke the father, that is very important. We should observe here. If you see, this also created another separate execution context for the father. Right now, you have only your this father's local memory. You see, bank balance is there in the father's local memory, and always global scope is always available for us. So the same thing happened here. Still, in this situation, you can't see the closure because this father function is not trying to utilize the information from grandfather. At the time, we no need to. JavaScript is not going to form a closure because that is not required. We don't need to waste the memory unnecessarily. Fine. Hope you have seen that clearly here. Okay, if you see, you can't find assets in this situation because you're not using, you commented the code, that's why it is not required. So if you uncomment this code, if you uncomment this code, then it will form a closure. It will form a closure. Just refresh. So observe carefully. Just reach the same position again. Just invoke the father. So if you see, you just invoke the father. Now you are going to see that three types of scopes. One is local. That means this local is for local scope of the father. In this, sorry for the noise. This is the bank balance. Okay, and we got the closure because he's trying to access the grandfather's information at the time. That means at the time grandfather feels that okay, this function requires my information. At the time it will form a closure. Closure is nothing but what we understand yesterday. Closure is a function bundled together with their lexical scope that will be available. If you want to return that, you can return. Okay, that's what, that is also we understand yesterday. Okay, it got created the closure. Okay, superb. And now if you return this, okay, if you return this, okay, if you return this further, because we are returning the function, we are returning the function, okay, we are returning, or you can call it as a method in this situation. So here if you return something, sorry, so it will return function here. So I think yesterday we have taken a variable name like oh my god. Okay, so fine, what will happen, okay, once you in execute this further, it will it will do these operations like it will allocate memory and it will hold the value and it will print the the bank balance, it will bring the assets information, we don't have any problem. And then it will return this one, it will return this function, right? It will return this function. What you will get here, you will get the exact the function. Okay, and what we are talking yesterday. So whenever it is returning that function, whenever it is returning the function, okay, it is not only return the just the syntax. Okay, it will bundle the lexical scope also. Because if you see, you are trying to access assets information. Once you come out of that grandfather home, if once you come out of that execution context, so that will remove, right? Once you complete the execution of this function, the execution context which is there for grandfather in the call stack will be gone. At the time, it will remove all the memory allocated for that. But if you are using this information in here and if you are trying to return at that time, what it will do, it doesn't remove this assets information from the memory. Okay, so that's what the closure will be there and it will give that to you exactly. Okay, it will return not only a function, it will return a closure also. Plus that's why I'm writing here simply, it will return the function, at the same time it will return closures associated with this function. So whenever you are executing this function here, whatever the closure is created, it will return. But here we are going to lots of twists and turns are there. Observe carefully. So this is simple, and whenever you invoke this function, oh my god, it will give the same results. Okay, here I'm just writing one more statement like console.log. Okay, this is outside grandfather, because this whenever you invoke this function in this situation, it will be inside the grandfather, and whenever you call this one, oh my god, it's simply outside the grandfather execution context. So that's we can see, and we can enter into the interesting part now for today. So just refresh and just invoke that function. So it is allocated memory for grandfather, and he can access the information from global scope always. And whenever you invoke this father, it is creating, it is allocating memory for father, that is local scope, and it is providing information which you need from the grandfather, that is in the form of closures. And then we are going to read, of course we need to do a console.log so that you can see the output clearly. And now it is going to return the function. Okay, right now once you come out of this further execution context will be gone now. Boom, that is not there. And now right now this is going to be very important. Right now you are returning the father. Okay, you are returning the father at this particular time. Whenever you are returning the father, so at the time it will send this function, and the variables or methods associate like which you need, which you are using in that function, will form a closure and it will return. Okay, so just so go for the next line. So gone, we are outside the grandfather. Now we are going to invoke the function again. So at that time it is going to, okay, in the here in this example, maybe if you see it is coming and executing the code here, but there is going to be one twist that we are going to learn now. So if you see the bank balance for 50 crore, sorry, bank balance 50 crore, and you definitely you will see that in the output, and assets information will be 100 acres, that you can see in the output. There is no problem for us so far. Okay, I hope you guys understood so far. Just give me confirmation that you guys understood or not, so that I will ask one question and try to give answer for that. If you understand these concepts, you can try to give answer for that question. So first of all, just tell me, Adya and Samir, understood or not? Okay, very good. Now I'm going to ask one question. This is the most important interview question. So if you see what I'm doing here, assets information is 100 crores. And now, once after invoking that function here, before returning that, I'm just changing the assets information. Assets is equal to, right, 300 acres. Okay, if the spelling is wrong, don't worry about that. So, information is. Now tell me what is the output. So, whenever I invoke the function father inside the grandfather's execution context, what will be the output? And outside, whenever I'm just invoking this one, what will be the output? You just guess it. If you don't understand the question, observe the code properly observe the code properly. What is the value here? What is the output here? I'm saying whenever grandfather execution context is available, that means whenever the father is staying in grandfather home, what will be the output? And here he came out of the family, he came out of the house, is right now is independent. Okay, but while coming out from the family, he got that function syntax along with lexical scope also. That means he definitely, here we have seen, right, bank balance is 50 crores, here we got the assets is 100 acres. Then here what will be the output? Just guess it. So before returning, we are changing assets information, so whether it will impact the output or not. Okay, even I will ping that code for you. So just go through that. Don't try to execute now itself. So just observe the code and give me the output. JavaScript is really interesting. Initially, it will be tough to understand JavaScript, but once you understand the fundamentals and all these logics, definitely you will love JavaScript. Yeah, tell me. No problem. If your answer is right or wrong, doesn't matter. You should attempt it. You should try to analyze, okay, to find the answer. So here the output is 50 crores and 100 crores inside the whenever the father is available. Okay, here outside means you are not staying. That father function is not staying inside the grandfather. So because he has written, after that we are executing. Oh my God! From the global execution context, at the time, what will be the output? Adya and Samir, just tell me whether it will be 100 acres or 300 acres. Okay, at least guess in that way. Because here the assets information is 100 acres and here the assets information is 300 acres. So I'm just asking the question, what will be the output here in this situation? So I'm giving 30 seconds because it will be live and it will be recorded. If you take 2 minutes or 3 minutes to answer, it's very difficult. Okay. Okay, I just said output will be 100. Okay, very good. Like Samir, what is your guess? Samir is saying 300. Okay, it's really nice. Two people got the different answers. So, okay, Samir, tell me why it will be 300. Do you know any reason? Adya, can you justify why it will be only 100? Okay, fine. I don't want to trouble you. Okay, just see the output first. This is very interesting. This is very interesting. Just refresh. So first of all, I'm just removing the breakpoints. Okay, just go to the console and refresh one more time. What will be the output? Samir, you are right. That is 300 acres. Okay, this is somewhat confusing, right? So just observe carefully the code. Observe carefully the code. Whenever you invoke this function inside the grandfather first time. So when first, okay, if you go to the code, it will happen. Okay, I will explain from the beginning again. Okay, fine. Right now we have invoked the grandfather, so it has created execution context. It is allocated a memory. This is very important, please observe carefully. Allocate the memory, that is uh, assets, right? He is just holding information called assets, and it will be 100. Okay, right now I'm just putting like without double quotation, just imagine this is 100 acres value, and whenever he invoked another function from the father, from grandfather, at the time observe carefully, it will allocate the memory again. It will allocate the memory again, right? It will allocate the memory again. So that's what we can debug for this point. Sources. Okay, we can start executing from the beginning. Okay, just refresh. Okay, right now we are in global execution context. Nothing is there. Execute. This is grandfather. This is grandfather. We know what will happen in the grandfather. So now we are invoking the father's function first time. Okay, in our code. Okay, whenever you invoke this, so it will allocate the memory for bank balance. So bank balance value is undefined. Okay, fine. Right now this value is 50 crores. And observe carefully what is there in the closure. What is there in the closure? Assets value is 100 acres. Okay, fine. 100 acres. So whenever you do console.log, you will get 50 acres, 50 crores of money and 100 acres of land. So now you are coming out of this further. You are coming out of this further. So this local memory which is allocated by the father will be got in next second. So it is gone. It is gone, right? It is gone. Observe carefully. Now we are going to return the father at line number 34. Before returning the father, it is going to execute this line. Assets is equal to 300 acres. So now if you execute, so right now just observe carefully. This assets is the variable of grandfather, right? So right now assets value is 100 acres. Still we didn't return the father. Observe carefully. Still we didn't return the father. And now we are going to execute this statement. Then what will happen? This assets information is changed from 100 acres to 300 acres. Right now this is away there in a grandfather's function local scope. Now you are returning. Now you are returning at line number 34. But by the time you are returning that father, already the value has changed the memory. So at that time, whenever it is returning, at that time it will form a closure again. If you see, the closure is gone, right? Closure is gone right now. So whenever you are executing for the first time, it will form a closure, and whatever the value is there in the memory for that assets, it will print that value. After that, the father is gone. The execution context is gone. He doesn't remember that what is closure again. So now whenever it is returning the father, it is returning the father, observe carefully, it will return this function definition along with this lexical scope. At the time, it will check what will be the value of these assets. That will be 300 acres, right? So now, if you execute this return further, so if you see immediately the value, of course, here you can't see the closure, but at least one in this oh my god, whenever you execute oh my god, you will see that value. So now execute this. Now we came out of that. So grandfather execution context is gone, everything is gone. But here remember one thing, this is very important. So this is a local scope of the father, local scope of the father. So I have some cold, sorry for the disturbance. So this is the closure coming from, so it will be available for him and it will be available for him, right? We can give some the beautiful colors for this. And again we can back. So whenever you invoke this further, okay, the closure will be there for you. At that time the value is 100 crores. Observe carefully, at the time value is 100 crores. And whenever the execution of that further is completed, at the time this is gone, okay, and this is also gone, this is also gone from the memory. After that you are executing this line, after that you are executing line, assets is equal to 300 acres. Very good. Assets is equal to 300 acres. So this value will become, this value will become 300. This here, this is going to be very important what we are going to talk now. The value become 300. Observe carefully, the value will become 300. And now in the next line, in the next line you are returning the father, returning the father. Of course this father, this father is a property of the grandfather, right? Some the function syntax is there, okay, function. Now you are returning the father, you are returning the father. So at the time returning the father means, okay, where is that variable? That oh my god is there in global execution context, right? Oh my god is there. Right now it is undefined. So whenever you are returning, it will return the function. That means now you will get the exact meaning of the function. So right now it is going to bundle that function along with the lexical scope of that. So what is the function definition? So what it will do? It will hold this function syntax plus along with this lexical scope. Lexical scope. So that means this father function is trying to access information from this grandfather, because this is the local scope of grandfather, right? This is the local scope of grandfather. Okay, grandfather. So at the time it will form a closure. So right now I want to take as a different diagram for the closure. Okay, so let me see. This is the a closure. That means inside we have a father and its lexical scope. Okay, what it is doing, it is going to, it is returning this, it is returning this from, it is for it just created the closure and it is returning into oh my god. Okay, it will return this one to oh my god. So here putting I'm just drawing separately. So oh my god is there in the global execution context. It will hold that function definition, and whether it will return 300 to him, no, it will provide the reference to that variable, reference to that variable. So once you come out of this, naturally it should, it should delete, it is going to delete from the memory, right, in the normal situation. But in this situation, whenever you are returning some function from this grandfather, and that function is dependent on the memory allocated for that grandfather, okay, this father function, this father function is dependent on the variable which is there in grandfather. So that means he will create, he will hold the function and its lexical scope, right? So here what JavaScript is doing now, it is not going to delete everything. It is not going to delete everything. This is very, very important. It is not going to delete everything. What it will do, it will, of course, I don't know how it is maintaining. So in the memory, it will delete everything apart from what is needed for this father. Okay, what is needed for this father, and it will hold the reference, it will hold the reference to this. Okay, whenever you invoke this, this function called oh my god, observe carefully, whenever you invoke this function called oh my god, and it will, this is also gone, this is also, that means the scope chain that is also gone, it will be there, right? Now observe carefully, this is very difficult to understand, but go and watch this video 1 or 2 times, it definitely it will be easy. So only thing is, only a small changes, because this is dependent, right? This further component, this further function is dependent on this assets information, so that once you come out of this further's execution context, at the time you're returning this function and its lexical scope, right? At the time this grandfather realized that, okay, one day this son, okay, this grandfather son is this father will come, he need this information. So maybe after 1 hour, maybe after 1 year, definitely he will come back and he will try to take help from me. That's why what he will do, he's not going to delete this memory, delete this information from the memory. It will be available in the memory in the same place, and it will provide the he will provide the reference. That means he will give that bond paper, he will give some bond paper to the father. So even he went to USA, even this father, he went to other places. So whenever he needs some information, because he needs information, whenever this oh my god function is going to be execute, right? Whenever, observe carefully, when we are going to execute this function, at the time what will happen? Again again okay, at the time this is not there, even execution con global this execution context is also not there in the memory, that is also gone. Okay, so I will show you that. So before going to execute oh my god, everything is gone from the memory, but okay, we can't see that where is that variable assets, okay, where it is created, that is there itself. The only thing is we can't see that, but he will get the reference for that. Okay, so now I will show you in the browser one more time. So if you see, whenever you invoke the for grandfather, just grandfather is available in the call stack. Once you invoke the father, so it will create another execution context. It will it will do its job. Right now the value of the bank balance is 50 crores, and assets 100 crores, 100 acres, that is fine. Then father is gone. Okay, that father execution context is gone from the memory. Okay, and right now still we didn't return this function. So in the local scope, the assets information is there 100 acres, and now we are going to change that value to 300 acres. 300 acres, the beautiful thing. Now we are returning this function at the time he is going to create a bundle with the function definition with its lexical scope. Means he need his local this function definition and this assets information, he will bundle together and it form a closure, and it will return to the global execution context. So right now if you see, whenever I just click on this one, once you go, right now you are returning that one. So if you see, grandfather is gone from the memory, grandfather is not gone from the memory, and even you can't see that assets information in the global scope. You can't see where is that assets information, but the assets information is there itself. But he has written some function, right? So that is there in the global execution context with a name called oh my god, oh my g, omg, oh my g. This is, so somewhere he will provide that reference to that memory. Okay, so this is the oh my god function, and indirectly already he has a reference to this memory. Okay, this is not deleted, this is not collected by garbage collector. So normally once we create a execution context, if that is not necessary, so garbage collector will come and it will clean up everything. But in the situation of closure, because this grandfather knows that his son is going to come again, or somewhere in the situation in the future he need land. So at the time, okay, the assets information is 300, so he will provide the reference to these assets. This value may change, This value may change in between. Suppose if someone is using the same closure and that person has changed that value. So okay, right now I'm not going to make it complex. This is very simple. So this, just remember one point, that it will hold the reference only. It is not going to store 300 directly in the closure. It is take the reference. Okay, he will remember the address of this information. Is not going to collect that 300 acres directly, the value. It will hold the reference. That is very, 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 very important point. So it will hold the reference. So then what will happen now if you execute this oh my god function again, it will create separate execution context for the father. If you see, separate execution context for the father. Okay, for that it will create again the execution context for that, sorry, scope, local scope. Along with that local scope, along with that local scope, he can he can access, this father can access information from the global execution context. And if you see, this reference is not gone from the memory. This is the local scope. So whenever you try to execute this oh my god, at the time it will allocate the memory for the bank balance. Okay, now bank balance still it is 50 crores, 50 crores. And now from the further, whenever you access bank balance, it will be 50 crores. Whenever you try to access assets, whenever you try to access assets, for grandfather is not there. Grandfather is not there in the memory. He's gone because we are calling this function outside the grandfather. Outside the grandfather, right? You are not invoking. This time we are not invoking inside the grandfather. Whenever you invoke this at this time, line number 30, at the time you are there inside the grandfather's home. This father is there inside the grandfather home. Okay, that situation is different. At the time, you should remember that at the time it was not executed. Whenever he invoked that function, at the time the father's assets are 100 crores only. Okay, after that the assets value has increased, right? So observe Kelvin, hopefully you are catching my point. So this is not going to remove, so the value is be 300. So whenever you right now from oh my god, okay, whenever you try to access that value, it will be okay. Here there will be a chance of confusion, that maybe you feel that Raghu, even if you are invoking this function outside, okay, so now if you see, it is it is debugging this function only, okay, because it will hold the reference of this function only, right? That's why, don't worry. So at the time you feel that Raghu, here previously also we came to this point, at the time bank balance was 50 crores, okay, and now if you see the assets value, okay, right now if you see, observe carefully, previously whenever you invoke this further, at the time the assets value is 100 crores. So you are invoking this function outside the grandfather. Oh my god, at the time in the call stack you can't see, you don't have a grandfather, you don't have a grandfather here. Okay, if grandfather was there in this call stack, maybe the value will be different, but right now not there. This information is coming from the closure. So this information is getting from this closure. He got the reference, right? He got the reference. That's why he is able to get the value as 300. Okay, now if you see, you will get the output as a 300 and you will be gone outside. So console, you got the output as 300 acres. So the closure will hold the reference to those the variables. It is not going to remember the exact value. It is not going to remember this value. Okay, it will hold the reference of the assets variable, so that even this value will change, doesn't matter. Okay, whenever you are executing that statement, at the time what will be the value of this assets, it will return that value only. Okay, I hope you guys remember. Okay, and another twists and turns also there, but this is enough because the closures is the most highest important topic in JavaScript. If you are able to understand, if suppose if you are studying the graduation, if you go to the interview, no one will ask the questions on closures because they don't expect that engineering students know about this concept, because they will ask this question for 5 to 6 years of experienced people, or even I think it will start from 3 years. If you are attending for interview as a 3 years experience, then only they will ask the question about closures. For freshers they don't ask this question. But why I'm explaining all these things, if you mention this thing in your resume that I know what is closure, I know I can deal with the closures, then he will get surprised that, oh my god, even fresher, who studying BTech second year, third year people, even these people are also aware of closures. If they are able to understand closure, he will get impressed and there is more chances for you to get a job easily. Okay, this is what closures. Okay, now tell me, Adya and Samir, you guys understood, or still if you have any question, ask me. Who are there in the live? Okay, some one person is watching. In fact, maybe. Okay, who is walking? So if you have any question, just ask me. Just let me know whether you guys understood or not. First of all, understood. Yeah, please do practice this. We will easily forget about these concepts. Okay, if you don't revise it first, do practice and understand it properly. And every week, you just revise once at least, so it doesn't take much time for revision. So first time it will take, first whenever you are learning first time, it will take 1 hour to understand the concept. Second time whenever you are revision, it will take only 30 minutes. After 1 month or 2 months, it will take only 2 minutes to revise. Okay, if you don't revise every week, okay, whenever you are going to try to understand before going for an interview, at that time again it will take 6 hours. So the 90% of the students will do the same mistake, that maybe once they understand the concept, they don't revise. Okay, they will open the same concept before going to the interview. At the time he will forget everything, then he will again will come to the zeroth position. So at least you guys don't do that mistake. Okay, and here okay, I will tell you one more interesting thing here. So maybe who are watching this video, maybe they will stop watching here, but if they watch, at least this is also be available. So if you see the interesting thing. So even I'm just removing all these things. So still we have 7 minutes. Okay, now if you see, this will be very fun, and you will hopefully you love JavaScript or you will hate it. Okay, if you don't understand, definitely you will hate JavaScript. If you understand, hopefully you will love JavaScript. Okay, I'm just creating a grandfather. Observe carefully, and here where assets is equal to same, I'm just taking 100 acres. Okay, and inside of that we are creating a function called father, and here we have, okay, bank balance, suppose maybe say 50 crores. Okay, in CE bank balance, and you need to invoke this father. Okay, you need to invoke this father to see that. Now what I'm doing, I'm creating another function inside the father. Okay, this you can do. You can go with n number of this chain process. This is son. This is son. Here you have only pocket money. Okay, pocket money. Maybe naturally pocket money. 5,000 is enough for these days, or I'm not sure how much money you need. But while I'm studying graduation, like for whole thing, for hostel fees and everything, my father used to send 3,000 rupees maximum. That was very good amount. but right now I'm not sure what is the living cost, at least for BTech students who are studying, at least in Hyderabad. So pocket money. If you see here, the most beautiful things will happen. Consultant law, you can access your pocket money, right? And he can access the information from his father, okay, bank balance, and he can take assets from his grandfather, okay, assets. Even if something is there in the global execution context, yeah, of course we can access it because global execution context is accessible for everyone. So here, whenever you invoke this grandfather, okay, you see, whenever you invoke this from the grandfather, now you will see the most beautiful thing. So just debug it, otherwise you can't see that. Just refresh, execute it. Just reach line number 28. So, oh my god, 1 minute. Okay, we didn't invoke the sun, right? So we should invoke the sun also, but then only it will execute, right? Just let me refresh. Right now, I'm executing grandfather. So grandfather is there in the call stack, and after few minutes, we are going to invoke the father. The father is there, and in the scope, just observe carefully. This father component is trying to access information from grandfather. That's why grandfather is available for him in the form of closure. Now observe carefully. Whenever I invoke the function called son, so if you see global execution context, God, our grandfather, our father, this is us or you or me. So we have only pocket money. Observe carefully. Whenever you are trying to access information from your father, he will be available in the form of closure, closure, closure. And whenever you're trying to access information from your grandfather, grandfather is also available for you in the form of closure. This is the most beautiful thing in JavaScript. Okay, understood? So if you see in the grandfather, you will see assets. In the fathers, you will see bank balance. Even whenever you return that son from, maybe if you return this from this function, okay, it will form a closure again, like whenever it is returning, it will bundle your function along with its lexical scope. So if you return the sun, the closure will, it will hold the function definition of the son and the scope of a father and scope of a grandfather in the form of closures, closures, closures. That's a beautiful thing in JavaScript. So this is enough. I think this is enough as a beginner. Even for 3 to 4 years of experience people, this is enough at this particular point. So whenever we are entering into React and in that advanced concepts, okay, I will explain about closures again in a greater extent. Okay, now tell me one more time, understood or not? And do you really enjoyed learning closures or not? Just maybe in the comment section, some who are watching this video, if you're if you understand scope, if you understand lexical scope, if you understand scope chain, if you understand like introduction is a closure, if you understand uh, what is a closure today, we try to understand what are the tricks and twists are there in the uh, closures. So if you want to understand all these things, maybe it will be a 5 hours or 6 hours of video. Okay, I hope if you done a practice, you will understand this concept. Without practice, you can't understand anything. So please do practice and learn and succeed. Okay, that's all for today. And see you. But need to practice it more. Yes, yes, definitely we need to practice. Just do practice multiple times and just remember in your own way and revise. Okay, if you don't revise, it will be evaporate within 2 or 3 days. Okay, that is the biggest problem with programming languages, and the students should follow that revision also. Okay, that's all for today, and see you tomorrow again. Bye bye.